I got you.
All right, we're doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Between Sets podcast. My name is Tyler Paterson. I'm joined by Timothy Walcott, my co-host.
What's up?
And we are doing our first Zoom podcast. So hopefully this sounds good for you guys. And if you want to see the video, you can tune into the Motor Strength Health Club YouTube, and it'll be our only video. And you get to see Tim stroking his mustache like he just did.
Either
So you don't
that
want to...
or Between Sets. I don't know what the account name is, but it'll be Between
Oh,
Sets or Motor Strength Health Club.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes below. Probably between sets.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll let you guys know. Follow us on Instagram to find all that out. And today we are joined by Kevin Boyd.
Hello
What's
there.
up, Kev?
Not much. Thanks for having me.
Kev's a good friend of ours. We've known him for, I've known him for a few years now, and then reconnected, got involved in an accountability group with him, and then I've wanted to have him on the show for the last little while now. Kev used to play professional hockey overseas, and now he does financial advising. I've gone to him personally many times just with different questions around finances and investing and different things in that area. So I've always really respected and liked his answers and philosophies around those things. So I wanted to get his thoughts, his opinions, have a little discussion, kind of interview, but similar to how we usually do this stuff. So very discussion based. Just around finances, economics, investing, saving money, all that stuff, and how it relates as well topically to what we're going through now as far as this pandemic and COVID-19. So, Kev, first of all, I'd like to ask you, you're a financial advisor.
That's right.
A lot of people don't know what that is. Well, a lot of people know what that is words wise, but like, what does a financial advisor do? What do you do? What is your job?
So essentially my job is very simple. My job is to help put individuals in a better spot financially tomorrow than they're at today. Simple as that, right? So there's a lot of aspects that go into that. So whether it's helping protect against the worst that could happen to someone and helping them realize what their goals are and help them work towards those goals and put a plan in place to do that.
Yeah.
So a financial advisor basically is just someone that you can develop a relationship with and start working towards the life that you want to live.
Is there other aspects to financial advising? Like, is that just the umbrella term for what you do? Or is there other things that, do you know what I'm saying? Like, are there
So
different...
yeah, it addresses specific needs. So in terms of investing, and we help out with investing philosophies, investing needs. We do insurance, so health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, critical illness, employee benefits for businesses. We also help with tax planning, estate planning. It all kind of is encompassed under the financial planning, financial advising umbrella.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's a little bit more specifically what it is. At the end of the day, though, we're a resource to help you make better financial decisions, develop those good financial habits, and really start to, get excited about working towards the future that you want to have and create a plan to get there.
Do you find a lot of people going off that, obviously as a financial advisor, your job is thinking about the future and planning. Not all of your clients are wired like that, which is why maybe they should hire you and do hire you. But what do you think that that's a problem, like with the majority of people, is the lack of foresight as far as seeing the horizon, seeing the future, and planning ahead?
I think just in general, that's a problem with Western society, is that people are very like today centric. They don't think past what's happening tomorrow. They don't think in the future. Everything, the world kind of revolves around them right now. And they don't really take that wider view. Like what do I want to accomplish in my life? What's really important to me? Why am I working? Why am I spending all this time to make money? What's the intention behind all of it, right? So I do think just in general, that is an issue for people. I find that a lot of my job is behavior coaching more than the actual specific finances.
Yeah.
If you can only really control what you can control, and if you take the proper steps, then it's really simple to get yourself in a better spot. And to be honest, it's exciting when I sit down with clients and I start asking them about their goals and what they want to accomplish in their life and how they plan on getting there. They get excited about kind of putting a plan in place to accomplish those goals, right? So I think, yeah, to answer your initial question, people are a little bit too focused on today, and I hope to help as many people as I can start looking at tomorrow and creating a plan to get there.
Have you, because you're relatively new to this as far as the financial advising part, right?
Yep.
Have you tried to differentiate yourself in some way from other FAs in the industry? Because I know that, I wouldn't have a good gauge for the rest of the industry, but I have a good gauge as far as what Gen Pop would see it as, someone outside of that bubble, because I'm not in it. And I know that there's certain stereotypes with maybe not financial advisors, maybe so like insurance guys,
Yeah.
and
And
like,
I can say for sure that I've had that problem with the insurance thing. Just a
yeah,
bit of a background. I started out in the insurance side of things. I was initially working on the group benefit side of things with employee benefits,
mm-hmm,
which people just see as insurance, and then moved over to strictly life insurance. And then with one of the big banks. And then now that I'm over to the financial advising thing, a lot of my network just sees me as the insurance guy, right?
mm-hmm.
And people, there's the connotation there that this like slimy insurance salesman. So I found that that's a bit of a road bump that I've had to get over. But
Yeah.
and I thought initially, I've always actually had a really good kind of perception of financial advisors my entire life, which is why I've always kind of wanted to be one.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of other people, yeah, the same connotation as the insurance salesman. They see you as a salesman, and that's what I've really done a lot of work to try and get past to differentiate myself. Is that some people fit that mold. There are advisors out there that are strictly salesmen. They only worry about making numbers meet, and I don't think that I think you guys had Dale Hall on. He had said the same thing. There's no spot for that in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing anyone justice. You're not doing yourself justice, and you're not helping anyone if that's what your intention is. So
Mm-hmm.
really that's been my biggest goal, is to differentiate myself in that way, to really develop relationships with people. I don't think that I can do my job properly unless I really know what matters to my client most and know them on a personal level. Because if I don't, then how am I supposed to make any recommendations on pushing them towards the future that they want to live? I need to know them and have them be completely genuinely honest with me. So
has that been a challenge as far as trying to differentiate yourself and a lot of people seeing you in a certain way and them either maybe not taking you seriously? I don't know if that's true, but either that or them just having a preconceived notion about you and then you being like, no, I'm not obsessed with money or greedy or whatever other connotation that you don't want to be associated with. Have you ever had a problem with that? Or
it is, until I sit down and meet with someone face to face. So when you're just kind of one-off talking to someone, you can tell that they have that perception.
mm-hmm.
And as soon as you either sit down with them for coffee or go over to their house and give them a visit and actually have a real conversation, I think it kind of sinks into them pretty quickly that, oh, this isn't just, he's not trying to sell me anything right now. That's not what this is about whatsoever. Right.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I find that when I hear other people mention what I do, they go, oh, he's the insurance guy. So even like a good example, even my mom does it still.
Yeah.
And she should be my number one advocate for this. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that I think that kind of comes with time and experience too. The more people that I help, the more that reputation will get out there. And like you said, on the actual financial advising side, I am fairly new. So, I think that I'm just going to have to give that some time, but I'm sure it'll blow over as long as I do the right things. As long as I'm helping people the way that I'm saying I will right now, that reputation will follow.
So since you're relatively new to this stuff too, is this current pandemic the most tumultuous time economically that you've experienced?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And funny enough, a lot of more tenured advisors are saying that they've never seen anything like this either. Obviously
Jeez.
there's been other recessions and crashes and whatnot, but in terms of an actual pandemic where people are concerned about their health, sorry. They're in lockdown, quarantine, markets are dropping, markets are just super volatile. People are freaking out, and nobody has necessarily been through something exactly like this. So I'm actually, to be honest, kind of happy that this is happening right at the beginning of my career, because I think it puts into perspective why I'm doing what I'm doing and really how I can help my clients. And it's a good test right off the hop to make sure that I'm servicing my clients properly. And it gives me a really good opportunity to help as many people as possible. There's a lot of people that are concerned about, one, their personal well-being. They're starting to realize that the unexpected can happen. And they're recognizing that, one, either that their plan is solid, or two, that they don't have a plan in place at all and that they need one, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that I would say. I think that I kind of try and live my life by this, that, again, Dale Hall mentioned the same thing, the 5 Ps, the proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Yeah.
If you're prepared for something like this, then you wouldn't have to worry right now, in terms of financially speaking, I guess. But there's a lot of people that are not prepared, and that's where they're taking a big beating right now. So yeah, it's, I'm happy. I'm obviously not happy that this is happening in general, but I'm happy to have this happen early on in my career so that I can learn from it now. And I think it'll lead to me being a better advisor going forward.
Yeah. Sorry to spring this on you so kind of early in the conversation, Kev, as well. But is there a piece of advice that everyone could have right now during this epidemic? So I think my main question would be, should you do a bunch of investing because the market is so low? Like, do you have a thought on that? Have you kind of thought through that recently?
Yeah. It's a very big topic of discussion with financial advisors right now. I would say if you have a plan in place, let's say, no matter where you are in your financial plan, I guess, but if you have a plan in place and it's set up properly, then that's the entire reason that you put one in place, to protect you from instances like this. Stick to the plan, continue with the same financial behaviors that you've developed. And if you're worried, speak to your advisor. They'll kind of talk you off that cliff sort of thing. They'll help you out. But you have a plan in place for a reason. Stick to the plan and it'll run its course. If you take a look at statistically the history of any sort of crash or recession, the markets end up bouncing back. If you're just consistent, calm, and patient, it'll all come back to normal, whether it's a few months, a few years, whatever it is. Your plan will be intact and things will continue to go according to plan. I think that with the markets going down, people look at it as a negative thing. You can kind of look at life in 2 different ways. Just look at the positive side of everything, look at the negative side. And a lot of people look at markets downturning as a negative. If you look at the positive side, it's kind of like all these equities and whatnot are at a discount right now. It's honestly a good opportunity to get into the market. And if you're consistent, let's say you have pre-authorized contributions that every single month a certain amount of money goes into the market. Each month, as it goes down, each month you're getting that same amount, or you're getting more bang for your buck, basically. And so there is going to be opportunities. I don't think that trying to predict the market right now is the best thing. It's super volatile and nobody can predict it. Just be consistent with what you're doing. There's opportunities out there. The market will bounce back. And just stick to the plan, basically. You have a plan in place for a reason. And if you don't have a plan in place, there's no better time than right now. I'm sure a lot of people have more time on their hands. Financial advisors are still working. We're able to do these cool Zoom calls instead of coming and meeting you in person. So reach out to an advisor. If you have an advisor, reach out to them, get an update on your plan. And now's a good time to set up a plan if you don't have one. It's kind of a good reminder that anything can happen. So, yeah.
Well, I think the layman spark notes there, because I'm a layman myself, so I'll speak to everybody else that is also in the same boat as me. So number one would be, if you have questions, obviously consult an expert. Kevin Boyd, of course, obviously. If you don't have a financial advisor already, if you do, call them, of course. Get their insight, because they've clearly made a plan with you. So I think that's important. And the next one would be, I was trying to take some stuff out of it, Kev. It's not a bad idea to get in at this point, but I think, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it's the smartest thing to put all your money in it right now, but it's not a bad place to start, because you're going to get some shares and you get your money into something, and it could just grow, because I think the general consensus is that the market will bounce back and kind of level out again at some point. So you will be, buying low, which is kind of nice. But don't put all your eggs in one basket. Just put a little bit in. It's not a bad time. So what I think you were saying is, it's not a bad time to start, but obviously start slow. and be consistent. So whatever you're doing, try to stick with one thing, try to stick with the plan.
Yeah. Just do what you can handle. Get in. I don't think that there's ever a bad time to get in the market and set up a plan. And to be honest, like if you're going to try and day trade the market, it's a losing game, right? So I'm not suggesting that. But if you go in with a plan, with intention behind putting your money into the markets, and you have a fairly long time horizon, then yeah, you don't have to worry about where the market's at right now, because over the long run, the market generally performs well. So yeah, basically your spark notes were right on there.
Cool. They weren't as spark notey as I wanted it to. I wanted it to be a little bit shorter than that, but
come on.
Yeah,
Ty.
dude, that would have been if you were doing spark notes when was that spark notes when we were in high school?
Yeah.
When you go, is that the same
Yeah.
thing? Yeah. If you had done those like on a book report that I had to do, I'd have been so pissed. I mean, like, these aren't spark notes.
These are harder than the actual book.
Yeah, he just rewrote the book and put his name on it. This is plagiarism.
I was actually trying to do jot notes, and then I was like, "Oh, I don't really know how to explain this in less than 10 words."
Yeah.
So, no, but I think it's important to. I think this is a really important time going through what we're going through, is to understand why a good financial plan is so important. Like, think about all the people that this is extreme example, of course, but it's still very important to understand why the planning is so crucial, because in a time like this, you might not have some money somewhere. So saving and planning for the longer term as well is important. So I think
it kind of brings us back to reality right now. I feel like people were flying high. It had been, 12 years since a real big market crash. And people thought that they were invincible in the markets, right? Everyone was winning. And so this kind of brings people back to reality, like, oh yeah, bad things can happen. If you have a good plan in place, it will help hedge your risk against that. So yeah, I think you're right.
Kev, I have a personal question for you, at least personal for me.
I have a personal answer for you.
Perfect. I want it to be tailored just to me, baby. So with this time, I've definitely started to be more aware of things like emergency funds, which a lot of people recommend. And as a relatively new investor, I was aware of it, but didn't take put a lot of focus into something like that. Now I see something like this happen, and I go, oh, these things do happen. Is that what this is supposed to help? And I'm assuming it is. Yep. But what I want to ask you is, what is an emergency fund? What is it meant to do? And how would you help someone make one?
So an emergency fund essentially is putting away a percentage of your income for a rainy day. And so right now is that rainy day, basically. So and generally what I would suggest is putting away about 6 months of your income. So you can do that slowly but surely, build it up. I mean, in terms of saving, the more money you can save and the more intentional you are with your money, the better. Mm-hmm. So you put a percentage of your money away automatically into a fund that is going to sit there. You're not going to touch, but it's going to be available for you in case something like this happens, in case you're laid off of your job, in case you aren't able to work for whatever reason and you need that money. You need that income there in case you're not bringing in income anymore. That's essentially what an emergency fund is there for, or in case any other emergency happens. So someone gets sick, someone gets hurt, you have some emergency expense, maybe something happens to your house, anything that is an emergency expense, you've got something there in place. I mean, there are other solutions for that. There's income protection insurance and whatnot, but having that money put away is always a good idea, just to make sure that you're not going to be sucked dry during a time like this.
Would you also agree with the statement that, or the recommendation that an emergency fund should be highly liquid, so it's just easier to access, like during an emergency, so you don't have to, you're not challenged to access the funds?
Yeah. So I would say basically you can put your savings into sort of different buckets. So you can have certain money that's going towards retirement. Those go into registered accounts and whatnot. Certain money that's saved towards an emergency fund, certain money that's saved towards different things. So if it's specifically towards buying a house or kind of going back to what I was saying, being a little bit more intentional, I think that each of those different buckets would have a different liquidity need. So an emergency fund is one of the ones that you would need a little bit of liquidity, maybe a little bit less market exposure, a little bit less risk exposure. That way you don't need to worry as much about losing that money that's there in case something bad happens. It needs to kind of be readily available. So yeah, I would agree with that statement that it should be a little bit more liquid than maybe other things that
Which
you're saying
means
for
like
other investments.
So tell me if this is wrong, but that would also mean then that however you allocate it, the risk would probably be low as well if the liquidity's high. You're not going to be putting it into things that are going to be, I mean, the objective of an emergency fund anyway is not necessarily to grow it like quickly. The idea is just to store it away when you can grab it later, right?
Exactly. You're not trying to get rich off your emergency fund. Like I said, you'll have different buckets of savings for things like that, for retirement, for other things that have maybe a longer time horizon that can go through a little bit more market volatility, can assume a little bit more risk, but it all comes down to the individual. It all depends on their risk profile, really. If they have a high risk tolerance and they're willing to have their emergency fund grow a little bit, be subject to a little bit more risk, then sure. But yeah, I would suggest having that a little bit lower risk, a little bit more liquid. That way you don't have to worry about losing that money and it's going to be available the day that you need it.
Can you tell me, like, just while we're on the topic of like topically what we're going through in the world right now with COVID and this economic volatility, can you define what a depression is, what a recession is, and then what the difference is between the two? Because there's a lot of talk going on with like, are we in a depression? Are we headed for a recession? Things like that. You know, a lot of clickbaity headlines, people trying to make predictions either way. But can you actually tell people what those two things are and then what the difference is?
Yep. So basically they're timelines. Like they have a doomsday sort of connotation attached to them. I know that when I hear the words recession, depression, it brings up negative emotions. So basically the definition of it is a recession would be any sharp market decline that lasts for about at least 6 months and up to, let's say, 18 months. So it's more in like a month range versus a depression, which may last years. So depression could last up to 10 years. Recessions are generally a little bit more short term than that, but still long enough to have like a major impact on market or an economy, a global economy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically the difference. They're a timeline for a market decline, and yeah, recessions in the month range, where depressions in the year range.
Yeah. What is your? Sorry, go ahead, Ty.
I was going to say, Kev, do you think it's smart that I have all of my money underneath my mattress, or is that a bad idea?
I mean, I'm sure you weren't too worried about the markets the past month or so.
Didn't matter to me. I was like, why is everyone complaining about the markets? Who cares?
Yeah.
Go into your mattress. What are you doing?
Are you implying that you're just paid in cash, Ty?
Grandpa's bank is highly liquid, baby.
No, I just cash all my checks because I like to. My mattress is just money. So I need to lay on something. Yeah. No. Trust me. I do all my taxes, son. I'm above board on everything.
But that's what you would say on a podcast, right? That's going to go public.
I'm cutting all of this out, so it doesn't matter. I can edit this. I'm the master.
Yeah. Tremendous.
Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I forget what I was going to say now.
Oh, damn it.
That's
nice one, Ty.
That's okay. I'll ask you another question, Kev. Sure. During something like this, during a tough economy, what are some healthy financial habits that you would recommend to people? Like either in general or specific, ones that, you know, think about the listener who's listening to this and something that they could take away where they're like, oh, that's good. I'm either doing that, I should keep doing that, or I'm not doing that, maybe I should start now.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I find it cool. I'm very interested in habit building and kind of the behavior around finance. Or the behaviors around finance. So I'll actually give an example. So I initially got interested in investing 4 years ago. I went and opened a direct investing account. At this point, I was working on the group benefit side of things. So just strictly insurance, was not doing any sort of investment aspect stuff. So just opened a direct investing account, put some I put some OSAP loans into the stock market, put it into Netflix, and it was just like everything was going up. And I was like, I was sitting there going, why am I even at work right now? I just need to be a day trader. Like, and so I didn't even realize what was happening. My greed was just like through the roof. I thought I was the best investor in the world. I was looking at my percentages in the first like couple months just because the markets were going up. I was like, I'm literally the best investor ever. And then got into the weed stocks. Those were on a super high at that point. And then next thing I knew, they weren't, and everything dropped. And I didn't sell off, and I was greedy. I was under that philosophy, don't sell when things are bad, don't sell when things are bad, and basically lost all the money that I had made. And it really made me check myself. And then I realized afterwards, I was like, wow, this is a massive lesson in behavior. And so I think that right now what's happening is kind of doing the same thing for a lot of people, where for the past 10 or so years, things have been going great. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden things are going bad, and they're calling I'm getting a lot of calls for people looking for second opinions as if their advisor's the one that's making this all happen. Right. Well, and so it's kind of funny to see people freaking out this way, because it's a good lesson in keeping your cool, trusting what you've been doing, trusting that you're doing the right things, trusting your plan, and kind of staying even keel, not getting too high, not getting too low through these things. So that's kind of my biggest thing, is to like take a deep breath, make sure that you just continue on doing the right healthy behaviors. So kind of, I guess this will more answer your initial question, that continue to save on a regular basis, continue to have like an intentional budget. If you take a look at what you spend your money on, most people, I would say, would be in disbelief how much money they spend on things that they don't prioritize. So if you were to say, what are your biggest 5 priorities? And then what are your biggest 5 expenses, what you spend your money on? They wouldn't line up that well for most people. So really take a look at that, put a little bit of intention behind why you're working for your money, what you want your money to go towards, save on a regular basis, be cool through this. And those are sort of the behaviors that I would suggest right now.
Cool. The other thing I was on that, it kind of just reminded me what I was going to ask you is, you said you had a lot of people ask you for second opinions. Like I'm sure a lot of people are worried right now, right? And they're probably even less trustful in certain people, and because they're just so uncertain right now. Do you think that this will be, I don't know if maybe the downfall is too like a extreme of a word, a descriptor, but like, do you think this will be a downfall of like robo-advisors like Cash App or Wealthsimple or whatever, where they're like, oh shit, like maybe I should actually, instead of taking the cheap and convenient route, I'll just hire an actual financial advisor because I need the human connection here in a situation like this. An app is not going to help me with this right now.
Yeah, I think so. I think that if advisors do their job properly right now, it'll really differentiate the service that we provide versus a robo-advisor. Now, I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with robo-advisors. For some people, they're the right thing. I think that they're great to help people start building those proper habits and behaviors. But really, this is the time where having an advisor is going to be really beneficial for people if they're client focused. If your advisor is checking up on you, making sure that, basically letting you know that they have your back, that your plan's still in place, watching the market, making sure things are in place and keeping you up to date, and stopping you from making poor decisions like selling off all your investments and all this sort of jazz. And that's really what's going to differentiate the live human version of a robo-advisor. So yeah, I think that, I don't know if it'll necessarily be a downfall if that many people will recognize, but I think that it'll be a good opportunity for advisors to really show their worth.
That makes sense. I think that's a more tempered approach because the potential is there. I mean, just like you, similar with me as a personal trainer, I've of course heard and continue to hear tons of horror stories of other personal trainers. But it doesn't mean personal trainers suck. It just means the potential is there, but a lot of people aren't reaching their potential as far as servicing their clients. And
funny enough, I see a lot of similarities between the service that I give my clients and the service that you guys give your clients. A lot of it is like behavior coaching, being a supportive resource for them. right? Like people know that their health is important to them, right? If you were to ask people, what are two of your top priorities? A lot of people would say that their finances are a top priority for them, right? They spend 8 hours a day working towards it, and they'd say that their health is important to them. But then a lot of people don't take the proper and necessary steps towards benefiting those, right?
Yeah, a lot of it is
you guys run into the same trial. Yeah, it's the behaviors, right? And the habits around it. So yeah, you guys run into a lot of the same problems I do, I'm sure.
Yeah, well,
I know that from previous conversations, but
yeah. Well, we always bring it up, right? That the conversations we've had off air and prior to this, where it's like there's a lot of parallels between advising someone on their finances and then advising someone on their physical health, which through personal training. So, yeah, I think you had already answered this question kind of by accident, but just from one of your answers before. But I was going to ask you if someone should still be making regular contributions to their investments during this time, because I think a lot of people, if they have auto deposit or auto pre-authorized payments or whatever going into the markets, and like maybe they're, people are panicking, and obviously people are panic selling. So are people panic stopping their payments and just being like, hoard everything and not, at what point do you go, don't do that?
At no point would I advise someone to completely stop the behavior of saving. Well, not necessarily saving, but their pre-authorized contributions. People are funny. The pre-authorized contributions protect people from their own inabilities almost. Like people, for whatever reason, have a hard time saving. So you set up pre-authorized contributions because it just happens in the background. The money comes into your account when you get paid, and then it goes, that portion, whatever you decide the pre-authorized contribution is going to be, goes into the investments. And I think that should just continue through this. Like I said, long term, this will bounce back. It always does. Stay the course. Basically, if the moral of the story of this whole COVID thing can be one thing, it's just stay the course. Stay calm. You have a plan in place. It's going to work out. If you don't have a plan in place, no better time than now to set one up. But yeah, I would say with the pre-authorized contributions, definitely continue to do them. It just automates a good behavior.
Can you kind of illuminate people on what you've been doing personally to coach yourself through this? Or if you have an advisor yourself, I'm not sure, but if you're just coaching yourself through this, what are some of the ways that you've been coaching yourself, or things you've been focusing on to get through this financially?
Kind of ironically, my interest really peaked in the kind of behavioral investor aspect of things a few months ago before this all started. I know that you're a big fan of that too, Tim. So I listened to a podcast. I think I sent it to you guys, the Rational Reminder podcast with Ben Felix, and he had Dr. Daniel Crosby on. He's basically a behavioral finance expert and this psychology expert, and he had some really, really good points about people basically saying what I'm saying right now, just staying the course, protecting people from themselves, because humans are funny creatures when it comes to their decision making.
Yep.
So
#hoarding TP.
Yeah, honestly.
if this time hasn't been obvious enough of that, like
exactly,
obviously we are irrational beings. Like
the new currency, toilet paper.
Yeah.
I'm a toilet paper advisor now.
Yeah.
Well, I think all of that, simply put, Kev, is that, let's see if I can answer Tim's question as well. This is how I understand it. If you continue with your pre-authorized payments and you put $100 a month, right? Now, $100 gets you 5 shares of whatever thing you have, right?
Sure.
5 mutual fund shares, whatever it is. $100 will go a longer way if the markets are down. So you might buy 10 shares. So now when the shares are back up to when you were buying for 5, but now you're getting 10, if they're back at the same value as when you were buying it when they were 5, you essentially just doubled all that money. So simply put, if you keep putting money in right now and like that's staying the course, and I think that's very important. I think it's very important to stay the course, because at some point you'll go, oh, look at how much money I've made now that the market is back up.
Yeah. And I think basically what that comes down to is that when the markets go down, your pre-authorized contribution amount has more buying power, right? So yeah, like you said, you're going to be getting basically more bang for your buck when the markets are down. So if they continue to go down each month, then you're getting more for that amount of money that you're investing. So,
and like, this is what, so let's go through that kind of conversation that you would have with someone, right? Because I'm not in your industry, but I've had similar conversations with people. It's like, oh, maybe you should start putting away $20, $100, $200, $500, $1,000, whatever your thing is per month. And then they go, at this time, right? Why would people not want to do that? They wouldn't want to do it now because they're like, well, what if I lose it? What if I lose it all?
It's only
I don't know what
once you take the money out, once you actually take the money out of the investments is at that point. Once you sell off the investments, that's when you've lost the money, right?
Yeah.
If the value of it goes down, you need to realize what you're buying. So let's say you're buying stocks. If you buy 10 shares of Apple, let's say, you have 10 shares of Apple regardless of if it's valued at $1,000 a share or $100 a share, right? You still have those 10 shares. So that's really what the money's going towards, buying shares of a company.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to remember that even when the value goes down, you still have that kind of
equity in the company,
substantial thing, right? So yeah, I don't know. Basically what I like to do with people is that, especially with the pre-authorized contributions, I know for myself, I don't even notice the money come out of my account. It becomes so regular. I look at my online banking app and it's just in that account. It just happens behind the scenes. Don't even notice it.
Yeah.
If people say that they won't be able to do it, ask if they have a gym membership or a phone plan. Do you ever notice that come out of your account? Generally, no. And then it just grows. And one of my favorite things to do with people is to take a look, just pull up a compound interest calculator. For anyone that hasn't done that, I would suggest doing it. Pretty fun. I find it very exciting myself. Go on a compound interest calculator, mess around with the numbers a little bit, see if you get a conservative return and you put in X amount of money, what it grows to by whatever date you decide, right? Based on the power of compounding. And it's generally a lot higher than what people expect. And it kind of gives them that excitement. I really like it because I can see it in my clients' eyes when I do it, that they're like, wow, I could have this much money by the time I'm 50. I could have this much money by the time I'm 45. Like, wow, this is possible. You could do?
This is one of the silver linings of COVID is all these exponential graphs going around. You can be like, this is what your savings looks like.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's interesting about that you took that angle. I didn't even think about that perspective as far as like looking at, if you're buying stocks in a company, assuming you've done your research on the company, you believe in that company. So forget if it's $10 up or down or $100 up or down per stock. You believe in this company and you want a piece of that company. So think less about the exact the volatile value that goes up and down or whatever you call it. But because what I was going to say is if people go, and you can tell me if this makes sense or not, but like you're kind of implying it when you said you need to protect people from themselves a little bit, is like if people go, oh, I don't want to put my money into that investment right now, the markets are so weird, you'd be like, well, you're going to spend it anyway, and you're going to spend it on probably shawarma and Tim Hortons or something, so and like I guess I can't really prove that, but I mean,
sounds like a good investment to me.
It's probably lucky. It's probably true for a lot of people. It's probably true for myself in a lot of situations. It's like if that money is out of your account before you can spend it on stuff like that, then And I'm not saying don't spend on
that kind of goes back to the whole pay yourself first thing that in pre-authorized contributions does that, right? If you pay yourself first and you know that money's going to go into savings, you cannot spend it on other things, right?
Yeah.
And funny enough, there's actually I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's a good Simple commercial that's on some podcasts where they basically say, you're going to start saving, but once the furnace is fixed, and you were going to start saving, but once you, like there's some other thing that comes in the way. Yeah. It's like, no, if you just start now, it's easy once it starts, right? And it happens behind the scenes. And yeah, I'm kind of reiterating what I've already said, but just starting now, creating a plan, having some intention behind those savings. Because that's the thing too, that if people don't have a purpose behind why they're saving, which I know I did the same thing. I used to save money, and it was I would eventually use it on something.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like I'm saving for a house, or I'm saving for retirement, or I'm saving because I want to have this. If I continue to save this much money at this return, I'll have this much money by the time I retire. If you don't have purpose behind it, then it's almost like, what's the use? Why am I even doing this? And people don't have anything to get excited about. They don't have the motivation to save that money and to stay the course with their plan, right? So, yeah.
Interesting. Are you stressed out right now?
Am I stressed out? I'm a little bit nervous for the podcast, if that's what you mean.
No, I meant in general, as far as the pandemic. Like, do these markets stress you out, or are you able to practice these behaviors that you preach, as far as like keeping your cool, chilling out, not worrying if they go up or down? Like, even, you know, when the Dow had that record point increase 2 days ago or whatever it was, everyone's like freaking out again. It's like, yeah, they're back down, whatever it is. It's like,
I think it's funny to watch how crazy people go with these things, because it's clear that things are going a little bit haywire right now, right? Having record days all over the place. I've kind of taken a step back and I'm kind of watching objectively. I'm not really concerned because I'm young and my time horizon with my savings is a long time. To be honest, the majority of my money is gone. I just bought a house in September, so the majority of my money is gone there anyway. So it's not like I have a ton of money in the markets right now, but I'm not personally worried about my own savings because my plan isn't short term whatsoever. And this is only really a short term problem. This is going to be just a blip in this kind of blip in the scene in terms of my retirement or savings down the line. So I'm not personally worried. Actually, I'm encouraged a little bit because people are behaving a little bit differently than I expected them to.
Yeah.
When someone reaches out to me now, they're reaching out to me and listening to what I have to say a little bit harder than they did before. It's actually, it's nice because when I talk to people, they're legitimately valuing my advice because they're concerned. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I'm able to be calm and kind of that guiding light for them right now. So personally, I'm not freaking out whatsoever about my own finances. For my clients, I think that as long as I can keep them staying calm and sticking to their plan, then that keeps me happy.
Well said. Yeah, that's beautiful. I think to surmise everything into one easy little sentence is stay calm right now.
Yes.
Get some advice, but stay calm. It's going to be okay.
Have a beer.
Pretty much. Yeah. We all had a beer before this. Like, we're all pretty calm. This is awesome.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
And that's the thing too. If you've got some extra time right now in your hands, I know a lot of people do. If you're working from home, review your financial plan. Take a look. Remind yourself what sort of things you have in place. Kind of check back in on what's important. Give yourself, a refresher on it. Call your advisor if you have one. Talk to them. See what their opinion on everything is. See what recommendations they have. They're going to guide you in the right direction. Stop you from making poor decisions right now. But stay calm and make good decisions.
Are you seeing a different kind of attitude from, older advisors just because they've seen more?
The ones that I'm working alongside with and have kind of partnered with seem very calm. They're experts. They're tenured. They've been through it. They've been around the block, right? So they're saying more or less the same sort of stuff that I'm saying. It's nice to have that little bit of a support there for me too with more senior advisors. Because I don't want to be saying these things and be like, am I crazy? Am I being crazy right now saying this to people? But they're on the same boat. Just stay the course. Stay calm. If you need this money tomorrow, then that's a different story. But if you've got a time horizon that's not immediate, then stay calm. You got a plan in place for this reason to protect you against this. So,
do you have, you don't have to share your opinion on this if you don't want, but do you have an opinion on just economically and just maybe morally, I don't know, the decisions the governments have been making, maybe in the States, but definitely here in Canada with the actions they've been taking to like either bail out corporations or help out small businesses, support families?
I'm conflicted a little bit. I do think that people right now need the support. There's a lot of people that have children and mouths to feed, and those things are important, right? So, but then on the flip side, there's going to be a lot of money dealt out, and kind of where does that money come from? It's going to, in my opinion, cost us a little bit in the long run. I try and stay out of the political talk, especially on podcasts that a lot of people are going to be listening to. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit conflicted. I'm trying my best not to listen to the media right now, not to listen to everyone's strong opinions on this sort of stuff. So I don't know. I'd say I'm middle ground right now. I'm kind of just floating even on it, not worrying too much about it. It doesn't really affect me, honestly, because
take a stance, you sissy.
Sound exactly like my dad. But it doesn't really affect me because I'm still able to work right now. I know there's a lot of people I am able to work remotely regardless all the time. So yeah, and same goes for my girlfriend Sid. She's able to work from home right now, so we're not overly affected by this, but I know that there are people that are getting laid off and in different boats. So yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm a financial advisor and not a politician. I don't want to have to make those tough calls.
Yeah, those are tough ones.
But this is why Tim and I are living at Kev's house, because we both can't work. And Kev's going to support us for the next couple of months.
But we're living in different rooms, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got to isolate, baby. So you can feed us treats over the wall.
Ooh, yeah, exactly.
Under the door.
Yeah. Under the door, yeah. I get each meal under the door each day. Yeah. through the dog hatch.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh. So this is what prison feels like.
Getting back from the clink.
Tim, do you have any other questions for Kev?
I think that was it. Kevy covered it, and he covered it quite well.
Kev, you did it, man.
Except I did want you to expose yourself as a Trump supporter, and I'm really sad that you didn't wear your MAGA hat. I tried to get you. I tried to get you, but yeah, you were able to elude that question.
Yeah, I was going to end with that, but thanks for ruining it for me.
Kev's just like, all right, thanks for having me on, guys. Trump 2020.
Yeah, see you.
Yeah, exactly.
Walks away. Cool, Kev. We're at that time in the show where I get to ask you one simple question that isn't so simple, but let's see how you feel it. If there was one thing you want every person on this planet to know, what would it be?
So I've heard your other podcasts, so I expected this question to come. And I kind of touched on the two things I was torn between. So the one I would say for sure is follow the 5 Ps. It was an old hockey coach of mine that initially taught me, but proper preparation prevents poor performance. And it couldn't be more true in almost every walk of life. If you prepare for anything, whether it's living a healthy life to prepare yourself for old age and preparing your health so that you live a long, healthy life, or preparing your finances for a pandemic that comes out of nowhere. Just in general, it's a great kind of motto to live your life. It forces you to think ahead. Don't think so short term, think long term. And I think that the other thing I would say is you can only control what you can control. People get so wrapped up in the market's doing this and the market's doing that. But really, if you just think about what can I control? Can I control any of this? Yes, no. Keep on, honestly, I hate to say this, but keep on keeping on with the good behaviors and good things will come, in my opinion. So yeah, I would say those two things.
If you don't know what the good behaviors are, obviously you should have learned stuff throughout this podcast. But if you don't know what the good behaviors are, you're going to message Kev and he's going to tell you all about it.
I will. That's the plan.
Well said, man. That was beautiful.
Contact for Kev will be in the show notes below. But Kev, do you want to plug your contact info for everybody?
Sure. You can email me at kevboyd@rogers.com, or if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's kevinboyd_SLF. And then Facebook, if you want to reach out, just Kevin Boyd. Yeah, that's basically where you can reach me at. I leave my phone number, but I just have too many people contact me. Yeah,
wow, weird flex, dude. Weird flex.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for coming on, man. That was a good show.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's fun.
First Zoom,
And
baby.
Nerves are a little bit lower now.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
it only took 4 beers. Wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. All we have to do is get you
Not me.
talking about something you like talking about, and you're just
Yeah,
gonna
man.
go forever. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll yap for days. So
It's because we're amazing podcast hosts. That's why,
That's
Kev.
it.
Come
that's
on.
what it is.
Don't
Exactly.
be surprised. But,
Yeah.
oh, it's awesome, boys.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. If anybody wants to contact Tyler or I, you guys can contact us at info@modusstrength.ca. If you want to email us, our website is modusstrength.ca. You can find us on Facebook, Modus Strength Health Club, and Instagram @Modus Strength Health Club. So, and obviously subscribe, rate, review Between Sets, the podcast. We'd really appreciate that. I guess most people listen to this Apple, but whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Overcast. Yeah, all those goodies. This one might be on YouTube now. So
Absolutely.
First one ever. I'm honored.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So
our website just got a facelift as well. It's brand new. It's beautiful. Go check it out. And you guys can find our contact information at the website as well. Again, that's modusstrength.ca. And that's pretty much it.
Thanks
again, Kev.
Thanks, Kev.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you guys.
See you, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Sweet. See you guys.